Hey Joey, so looks like you need some help on exercises 14 through 16. I looked at your valid index method. It looks like you have the general idea. The thing that gives a lot of students trouble, and I think is giving you some trouble, is the getting the boundaries right. So I'm just going to step through each one of these. Let's start with 4.14. It says add a method called check index to the music organizer class. It takes a single integer parameter and checks whether it is a valid index for the current state of the collection. To be valid, the parameter must lie in the range 0 to size -1. And it doesn't explicitly say, but just from what you've read about, how an array list works, it should be clear that it's meant to be inclusive. That 0 is valid and size -1 is valid. Okay, and everything in between. So it says if the parameter is not valid, it should print out an error message saying what the valid range is, and if the index is valid, then it prints nothing. Test your method on the object bench with both valid and invalid parameters, and make sure your method still works when you check an index if the collection is empty. Okay, so let's take a look then. So I'm going to open this guy up, and let's see, I don't think I saw check index, so I'm guessing you probably wrote a check index and then maybe converted it into valid index or something like that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and write a check index here. One thing you can do, I just want to show you this so you can see it. You could use insert method to stick in a whole method. Sometimes that's nice to do, just because it sets up a lot of stuff for you. But we know we want our check index to have a void return type. Check index and take an index as a parameter. Right, and so we'll have this parameter be index, let's call it like a potential index, but we don't know if it's really going to work or not. And we don't return anything for this one. We're just going to, let's just say, print out an error message if the index is not valid. Let's say a valid index is in the range 0 to files.size -1, and I'm going to make it explicit. I'm going to say inclusive, meaning that 0 and file size -1 are included in the range of valid indices. Okay. So let's go in here now. So let me just go back for a second and just, okay, so it says it takes a single integer parameter. That's what we did. So we had a single integer parameter called index, and checks whether it's a valid index for the current state of the collection. To be valid, it must lie in that range. Okay. And then if it's not valid, it should print out an error message saying what the valid range is. And if it is valid, then it prints nothing. Okay, so let's try. Let's see. So we only need to print something out if we're out of range, right? So what we can do to check if we're out of range, we know if the index is less than 0, it's no good, right? If it's 0, it's okay, because 0 is the first element in the array list. Or if the index is, we could compare it to file size minus 1, but we could also just say greater than or equal to files.size, right? If it's equal to files.size, it's too big, right? Because let's say if there are 4 files in the files array list, then they would be numbered 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So the index of 4 would not be valid. That would be too big. So if it's bigger than or equal to 4, let's say if the size is 4, then it's too big, right? So we have that. If that's the case, then we got to print something out, right? Because now it's out of bounds. So we want to say system.out.println to do our printing out, and then we have to say what the valid range is. Oops, what did I lost track of my cursor. Okay, the valid range is, and we know 0 is always included in the range, but we have to be able to put in the size the upper bound can vary depending on what the size is, right? So we're going to have to add that in as a variable. So 2 and let's say file. Oops, just spell it correctly. Files dot size minus 1. And notice I'm putting this whole expression files.size minus 1 into parentheses, because what happens is, let me close this off first. Let's see. Because what happens is, if I leave off these parentheses here, let me make it compilable here. I'm going to compile it here. If I leave off these parentheses, then what's going to happen is it's going to so remember, parentheses are what we use, just like in algebra. You use those to be clear about what order you need to do things in. If we leave off the parentheses, this plus will happen before this minus. So it'll concatenate this string with files.size and then try to subtract 1 from that string. It's not going to not be happy about that. So when we compile it, it says bad operand types for binary operator. That's what's happening there. So we need to enclose this in parentheses to say, do the subtraction first, and then concatenate that result to this string. And then that'll work. Okay?